YouTube. Let's see if the lighting is all right. Do you need to change the lighting? No, just leave it like this. Huh? Oh, hi there. Some people already joined me apparently. So this is on YouTube. Normally I would stream on TikTok, but I was banned there. I lost all my accounts, so I got to start over on this whole thing. I was going to talk today for maybe the next hour or so, if I keep it up, about finding some internal motivation and internal validation for ourselves and for our people in Europe. I was looking at some map today that said that the European countries and so on, like it was a map of countries where they had more than 1 million births a year. And of course it's Africa and India and so on and so forth, right? And Europe, North America, Latin America are all drying up. Like these places don't have, but of course we're smaller countries anyway. Germany only has 80 million people, and even if, yeah, they could possibly have a lot more kids, sure, but I think that's not really realistic. There's a whole debate about how many more people do we need in the world. Well, I don't think we need any more. We got 8 billion, that's kind of enough. I see some people joining now on the live stream. Usually on YouTube, it takes a long time for people to join to find me. But like on TikTok, everything's better, yeah. On TikTok, it would shoot up to 10, 20, 30 followers within a few minutes, but here it's always slower. So, hi, Stuart. Do you think the destruction of traditional European architecture has something to do with globalism? Yeah, so architecture, the way I see it, is an expression of a people's soul. Normally, and throughout most of human history, people didn't move that much. They lived in the place where they ate, worked, and built, right? Where they had kids. So the way you shape your environment matters a lot, especially if you're going to live there forever. And so globalism does something else. They, instead of having fancy facades or even the Art Deco that you saw in the United States, like the Empire State Building and so on, even that, they did away with everything and make everything into square rectangular boxes. And those are designed for destruction. They're easier to deconstruct again. So they have no intention of, say, as in the 19th century, people wanted to build for all eternity. They wanted to build cathedrals that would last 1,000 years or maybe forever. Timeless beauty. And so globalists take the opposite concept of timeless beauty and they turn it into temporary ugliness that has to be destroyed. Yeah, of course globalism does that, because if you are growing and expanding as a society so rapidly under growth, like economic growth, you don't want to build for tomorrow anymore. You just want to build something that can be easily bulldozed over again. Yeah, that's the sad thing. Yeah. So I was just talking about, the topic for today is going to be finding internal validations and motivations to even decide at all what on earth we are doing in Europe and the Western civilization. We don't seem to be living for something anymore, or rather we are living for things that are outside of ourselves, and we're not living for what's within ourselves. And that relates to this, the architectural transformation of the globalists. We use architecture used to be an expression of our souls, and now it has become, what exactly, a defacement. We've been defaced, so to speak. I watched a part of a documentary, of an interview with Megan Fox. Now, most guys my age know Megan Fox from the Transformer movies, where she jumps out of the truck and then presents her bosom, right, to screen. And so, but Megan Fox, she's now old, and she has her face plastered over with makeup, and she talks about the physical surgery she has done. By the way, she has a son who thinks he's a girl now, and I bet the mother has something to do with it. So Megan Fox nowadays has pink hair or whatever. And so Megan Fox describes the facial incisions and surgeries she's had and is thinking of doing, and then of course surgery over here. And then I realized something. The United States has become such an incredibly degenerate place that the few women who are born with good looks are desperately trying to hold on to those looks by allowing surgeons to cut into their bodies, basically literally cut the fat, cut meat, cut flesh, and so on, just to keep pretty. There's a woman on TikTok called Mercedes. You must have seen her. She has like millions of followers, but she also goes to the surgeon to have surgery on her face and injections and so on, filler, whatever. I mean, filler not just for, but filler everywhere, you know, to shape that face into what they think it needs to be. And that is a reflection of people who live too much in the outside world. They seek external validation. Obviously, beautiful women get a lot of external validation. Oh, you're so pretty. Oh, you look so good, right? And of course, the women talk to each other that way, like, you know, oh, you got nice rack, you know. Yeah, women look at each other as well. And that's quite disturbing, actually. We in the West ended up being this culture seeking only external validation. Imagine talking to an American young woman, 25 years old, right? And she and you ask her like, well, how do you see your life 20 years from now? And she starts listing. She wants to have the house, 2 houses, and the swimming pool, and the car. It has to be a Tesla, right? And then the vacations. So she lists her whole future only in terms of properties that she wants to acquire, only in terms of stuff and things. And that is, you look ridiculously extreme, actually. Imagine asking a young woman in the 1800s in America, you know, to describe her future 20 years from then. I doubt they would be talking about the property she wants to own, but rather maybe the answer would be very differently: to serve God, or, you know, to live an exciting life. Exciting meaning by acting, by going out and having the adventures of someone, or by having the family life, or having a bond with your people, or supporting your men or something. The answers would have been very different. Yeah. So that's what I think is going on in the Western world, and that's why I wanted to talk in this live stream episode. I wanted to talk about finding internal validations. Another example. Okay, I mentioned Megan Fox and so on. Arnold Schwarzenegger. He obviously always had that huge big body, and there's a video of him where he says that he never thought about what might happen if he'd grow old. When he was younger, he was not thinking about how his body might look like when he was old. So everything's sagging. Even with muscular men, they end up sagging, right? And you see that Arnold and Megan Fox and all those kinds of people, very wealthy people as well, their whole image, like Donald Trump, for example, their whole image stands or falls with their properties, their possessions, their body, their looks, their appearance, and there's nothing there on the inside anymore. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Oh, welcome back. Yeah, it's our dreams we're not realizing our dreams. I think a lot of people don't even have dreams anymore. They just dream about stuff. You know, they dream about, you know, luxury cars and buildings and better looks and so on. But maybe that's because it's hard to even imagine internal values. Because instead of thinking of money, cars, housing, looks, and so on, right, and vacations, you're thinking of confidence. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger couldn't really be very confident if he has to rely on his appearance. Also, Megan Fox can't be very confident if she has to do surgery to stay pretty when she grows older. And she's not a confident woman. Or I mentioned Donald Trump. If they take his money away, there's a court case now, right, with Trump. He has to pay like $500 million or something. The court case is ludicrous, but then by taking away his money, Donald Trump basically stops being Donald Trump, because he built his whole image around being a billionaire, right? It's pathetic, yeah. And so these kinds of people, they live in the outside world. They have no inner life. They have no confidence. They have no self-esteem. You know, if everything relies on, you know, let me describe it this way. Only recently did I realize what it's like to be really rich and why it's a bad thing to be really rich, like billionaires. It goes like this. When billionaires go on holidays, They have a team they sent there first. So they have like employees and staff members who go there first. They organize the location, the vacation location, where they will have the same watch that they always have. They have a copy of the watch there. The same car, they have a copy of the car there. They have the whole wardrobe duplicated and shipped over, right? So that when they arrive on their holiday location, they have all their favorite stuff. They've got their watch there, the car they like, they've got, right? These people, you know what that means, what I'm trying to explain? These billionaire type people, they totally rely on their possessions. They identify with their Rolexes, with their Porsche cars and so on. That is their whole life. These people will get angry like little toddlers if they can't find their favorite watch, right? Even though they have like 50 Rolexes, they have a favorite one. If they can't find it, they cry, right? So I think it's even more difficult to become more confident if you have too much money, right? Because then you can buy the suit and the watch and the car and the looks, but what you cannot buy is the confidence. So that's here on YouTube, your comments, the font is really small. I don't know how to increase it, but someone is currently living in the USA. And everything is about your possessions. Exactly. That's what I've been talking about. Yeah. You couldn't imagine a more materialistic place on earth. I got the same impression. Yeah. And I feel a bit silly about it because when I was like 20 years younger, I would look up to the United States, to New York City, and I would want to go there, and I would want to have, the penthouse apartment and so on, right? And drive, maybe not a Porsche car, but I was thinking of like a Mustang or something. Outside where I live, there's some guy owns a brand new Bentley Continental GT in this bright blue color, and it looks really nice, but because I see it every day, I don't want it anymore. Get it? It's only, these kinds of possessions are only fun on the first day you have them, and on the second day it's more like, yeah, I have a car, right? It's not like, imagine you have to base your confidence on owning the car. So as you can tell, I'm a bit anti-materialistic, but I've become that way. I think even as a kid though, I didn't like the sort of gifts when they gave you like a new audio system or something, right? When you're 10 years old and your parents buy you an audio system. Although those gifts are fun, the real gift you always really want, of course, is love, affection, kindness, right? Stop yelling at me, right? Support me. That's what you want. You want support. And I think a lot of people who grow up having support and kindness and affection in their childhood, when they grow older, they are simply very confident people, right? But it's the other people who were like scolded and put down and humiliated, but they gave you an audio system. Then you grow up like, I have to work to make money to buy stuff, and the stuff makes me happy. You see what happens? Materialism gets in between two people. They love each other, but there's money in between. I think that's what happened. I think what I'm trying to explain is that in our culture, in the Western world, materialism has become a substitute for the love and affection and kindness that we used to give each other. Now it's become a thing. Like when you go to somebody's birthday in the Western world, you're supposed to buy them a present, a thing, and it has to be expensive, right? Like more expensive is better, right? And because then they can sell it on eBay for whatever else they want, for what they really want, right? But it has become a substitute. Children when they watch children's shows, they see all these commercials for children's toys. And you have the Toys R Us catalog, they drop in your mailbox, right? And so kids, young children, they browse through these pages like, I want that, I want that, I want that. But all these things are substitutes for what they really want, is love, affection, kindness, support, to be believed, Right, so are Russians Europeans? Yeah. Western Russians, white Russians, yeah, they're Europeans. Technically, they are in the European continent, but people always say that it's not real. Europe is not a real continent. No, it's the face of Eurasia. You used to be anti-materialistic in your awakenings, but you're also proud that we can build all that stuff. Yeah. Well, yeah, we can build cathedrals, and that's maybe not the same thing as materialism. It's like, the do you really need to own a collection of Rolexes? You also think that a lot of young adults were spoiled as kids nowadays, yeah, and now they are entitled as adults because they were never told no growing up. Yeah, I was just thinking about something like this today. What is really the difference between grown-up people who become right-wing and grown-ups who become left-wing? And I think the left-wingers were spoiled as children, materially spoiled. They're not necessarily loved. They were definitely spoiled with material stuff, or their lives were about material gifts, right? The parents didn't give them love, but just toys. And when they grow up, they expect the government to do the same. They expect the government to give them housing, to give them a car, to give them public transportation, whatever, right? And so they always ask the government to give more. Whereas right-wing children may have been more independent or had to be more independent. It can be in a good way or in a bad way, but either way, right-wingers, when they grow up, they expect to be independent. And that's why we don't like socialist policy, because the socialists don't want you to be independent. They want you to be dependent on the government. And so here you see that strange tug of war between leftists and right-wingers. Leftists want to be taken care of. They don't want to take care of themselves. They don't want responsibility. They don't want to be independent. The right-wingers who actually are responsible and independent, they don't want that taken away. They want to keep that. They expect to be able to live that way. And so in the end, I think that the right-wingers are right because they're independent, they take responsibility, they fix their own problems, right? Or at least they blame themselves. Have you heard of time is the best gift you can give somebody? That's interesting. Time, yeah. Time is a sort of currency, yeah. Like, I'll help you out for an hour or so. Yeah, that's probably very good. Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I was moving to another apartment, and I called I used to have friends, and I called my friends, hey, can you help me out move? And no one had time. No one had time to help me out. Even though I helped them when they were moving, I helped them out. So the people I helped move didn't have time for me, and then that's the end of a friendship. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, time is worth more than the money you get for it. Yeah, absolutely. I read something by Kurt Vonnegut. Kurt Vonnegut is the author of the book Slaughterhouse-Five about the fire bombings of Dresden at the end of World War II. But turns out he's also a very smart philosophical fellow. And I read a little bit by him today. It's the fact that in the United States, poor people mock themselves. They hate themselves. They don't think of themselves as good people. Whereas in Europe, lots of poor people are still proud. They take their poverty with an aristocratic pride, right? As in, like, we may be poor, but we're still creative, we're intelligent, we still work hard, we're good people. But you don't have that in the USA. In the USA, poor people are told, it's your own damn fault that you're poor. Get a job, even if you don't like the job, right? Yeah, time is free. Huh? So Stuart stumbled upon my TikTok at the beginning of this year. Your super brainwashed brain thought you were a racist bigot until I started listening to your podcast on Spotify. Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, I started doing many different things. So I actually started with the podcast on YouTube. Initially, it was a different name. What was it called? Johannes Tyrannus or something. But I only get like 80 views on a YouTube video nowadays. And then I later switched to TikTok, but I kept doing the podcast on the side. Now it's called the Great Johannes Podcast. I think I was very racist at the start of this all, but then again, it's not like I'm not racist. It's more like I just don't want to live with Africans. And why should I be forced to live with Africans, that's the thing. I don't want you to force me to do that. If I don't like it, I should have a way out. I should be able to live somewhere with people who also don't want that future, But yeah, I have a lot more to say than just talk about Africans all day. I don't necessarily need to talk about them. So Right, that's a good point. Yeah, people spend their whole lives working for the stuff they have. Usually for the house, right? The house and the mortgage. Yeah, the mortgage is something. Yeah, that's what makes you a slave. Once you accept your mortgage, I know somebody in my family. They bought a house. The official price is 220,000 euros, right? But that's not what you end up paying for it because you have to get a mortgage, and the mortgage has interest. And then if you compound the interest over 30 years, what the amount they ended up paying for a house that was worth 220,000 was like 540,000, is like 300,000 more than the actual price. And so you see how mean that is. People who have money, they can buy the house for 220K. People who don't have the money need to get a mortgage, and they end up paying 550K. And of course, yeah, they say it's inflation, this and that, such and such. But still, you work for that money, you know. I almost have another 1,000 followers again on my TikTok channel, and then I will be able to go live there again. You know what surprised me? I was completely canceled by TikTok, but if you can either factory reset your phone, because I'm sorry, I choked on my teeth. Because TikTok gives you a device ID ban, and if you factory reset your phone, you get a new device ID, and then you can go on TikTok. But I also have another phone, so those are the tricks you have. But what I noticed is that my videos already have like 10,000 views anyway. So it's really about the quality of your video, and it has nothing to do with how many followers you have on TikTok. It just doesn't matter. Yeah, so the topic, I was talking about finding that internal validation and figuring out what you really want to do in this life. And that's can be a bit difficult sometimes, you know, because you're so easily distracted by the outside world. Buy a new refrigerator, buy a new TV, buy a new car, and then you end up working for those things, right? Especially in the United States, where you buy everything on credit with a credit card, right? You don't realize that you still have to work to pay that off. So you're basically a slave of your past decisions in that sense. In Europe, we have debit. Usually, we have a debit system, but of course, they also come up with payment plans and so on. So you pay per month, which is like a credit card, right? So they did that. Yeah. Yeah, you end up being a slave of the decisions you made in the past. You know. You don't have any mortgages. You built your own house. All right, and a Tesla in the garage. That's pretty cool, right? Yeah, you know, I noticed that I read an article today. Most, like, no, not most, but like over half of Dutch people has never moved after age. Dutch people over age 30 have never moved again. They simply settled down. It seems to be an age around age 30 is when people settle down and they just don't ever want to move anymore. They just accept, all right, this is our reality. This is what we do, which is normal. I think that's called rootedness. You are rooted in your community. But of course, the news article, it writes about it in a way like, oh, this is weird. Why don't people move more? Yeah, because they want to get those people to move out so that their homes become available to immigrants, right? Yeah, bad, you know. You want to build a community and build each other's houses. Yeah, I wonder if that works out. But some people do that, right? Or you can have like a group of friends and then buy a big farm somewhere with lots of farmhouses and turn those into apartments for each other or something, right? You can also have like your little mini society. Yeah, there's a lot of experiments of mini societies that go horribly wrong, but I think they also want you to be scared of that. I think they want you to be afraid of doing things yourself. The government, like I said earlier, the government doesn't want you to be independent. They want you to stay dependent on the government. All right. So Joe Biden, the president, because Joe Biden doesn't make any decisions, but the administration, they are releasing bears in all sorts of rural areas so that people can't go outside anymore. Basically, they're using bears and wolves. Like also, they're also doing this in Europe, releasing wolves, kind of to scare people to move into the cities or something, right? You see that these highly powerful, influential people, they have very weird ideas about the world, but they never tell you what they are. They want to move all people into the cities or something, or maybe they're just using bears and wolves as an excuse to try to get the white middle class into the big cities, and then they'll chase the wolves out again and the bears out again, and then move the migrants out into the middle class homes into the suburbs. It could be a game of switcheroo like that, you know. Yeah, you can start your own clan. Yeah. If you built it with your own by yourself, yeah, you can also be proud of it. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, they're releasing bears and wolves. Yeah, to scare people into thinking that, oh, the countryside is dangerous. We better move into the city. Huh? Why would they even want to do that? You know. I remember reading a book called The Next Million Years by the grandson of Charles Darwin, who was also called Charles Darwin. And this guy, the author of that book, he had this vision that we would chase all the people into the cities. So I think that's where it comes from. These elites, they have these weird fantasies that they end up believing. I don't know exactly how it works. But let's just say that the political system, that's not where decisions are made. The politics does not matter. It's those rich people, and they have their own fantasies and dreams. And they're just using people and the media and so on to get what they want. They're just really good at manipulating you. Right. You built your house from scratch. That's really great. Foundation, the roof. Yeah. Yeah, the wolves killed the sheep. That's right. Wow. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about finding internal validations, but for our, not just as for you as an individual, I spoke about that, but for us as a group of people, us heroes. The first thing that comes to mind is a sort of revival of spiritual life, of religion. And with religion, people think organized religion, but usually I don't mean that. I don't mean organized religion. I mean that stuff of stardust, basically the stardust that binds the people together, that gets them to actually care about each other again, so that we can, do the right thing, really. Let's see, somebody responded. Rural areas can allow people to have their freedoms, yeah, and the government won't allow it. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Have I read stuff by Chris Langan? Yeah, I've heard of Chris Langan. Yeah. You're South African, and you notice that how tall the descendants of Dutch people are in my country. Yeah. Does the environment have anything to do with it? They always say it's both genetics and the fact that we have like meat and dairy, high protein diet from cheese and so on. But it must be something genetic as well. You know, some people say it's because the Netherlands used to be a swamp, and if you had long limbs, you could pull yourself out of a swamp, and the short ones drowned. So don't know if that's true. Right, we should be united by the blood, but the blood is your spirit, your people's soul. The Germans used to have a phrase called the collective racial soul that binds you together, and this, yeah. But people at the same time can also be extremely selfish and egotistical, right? Like where do people's loyalties lie nowadays? They lie with their corporate bosses, right? With their chief, right? Not so much with each other, not so much with the society. People are more likely to believe the mainstream news. I notice sometimes I make a video and then I only get like really cruel negative comments on it because I hit a snare. I said something that people really didn't want to hear. And sometimes I say something that I just have it wrong. Sometimes I'm wrong. Though I feel that I often get close to the truth, close enough to really upset people. They get really angry. And sometimes you really hit a snare where all the comments are negative. Everybody calls me crazy. Right? And I think there are some things about this society. For example, the fact that the Netherlands and Belgium and so on, and these highly populated, very densely populated parts of Europe, the industrial zones of southwestern Germany, for example, or Western Germany, the Ruhrgebiet, these people really are slaves. They bought into a dream. It's not really a dream. It's just an industrial zone, right? And then I was thinking, like, the sort of people like the Dutch, like the Belgians, who end up in those societies, who end up believing the media, it's because the rebellious types left. Get it? So the rebellious types left, and the ones who stayed behind in the Netherlands are already more sheepish than average human beings. That's my point, basically. I find Dutch people both very sheepish and very, very mean. That's my description of them. Right. No, I don't like these negative comments that much. No, I learned to deal with them, but I have other goals that I wish to achieve. I just really don't like my society. The society I was born in, I think it was very negative, very harmful. And of course, that's because I'm a rebellious type. I go against if people tell me to follow a rule, then I think about the rule, and if I conclude that it's a bullshit rule, I'm not going to follow it. But there are so many people who follow the rules for rule following's sake. They just want to be a good rule follower, and they want to have their sticker and their signature and their promotion for it. People just want their promotions. They just want to follow the rules and get their promotions, and I'm not like that. And that makes it hard for me to deal with these people. Yeah, society is sick. Yeah. The racial soul, do you believe souls differ in races? Yeah, I assume so, yeah. It's like an ethnicity. Your group, the way they behave and think and what they dream about collectively is different from group to group, so from ethne to ethne. It's different, yeah. Yeah, Dutch people don't seem to care about family. Yeah, it's hard, yeah. In my family, I was the only one who did not, take the... I can't talk about that. You know what I'm talking about. If I do this, I'm talking about that. I was the only one who didn't take it. And then, because this is YouTube, you can't even mention it. I got a strike just for mentioning it, so I can't even say it. Yeah, I was the only one who didn't believe that. I just did not believe the program, and yeah, that was a bit of a problem. Yeah. So you see that your own family can be totally brainwashed about some things. Yeah. There's no way you can talk about it. They don't believe you. They think you're crazy, You understand, yeah? Yeah. So most important is to have a truth picture of oneself, of our country, yeah. Yeah, the true picture of your country, yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah, what I would say about that, if you want to speak the truth about who we are in Europe, we are in the end the slavish types, because the rebels and the strong ones, they were all killed off in wars, killed for crimes. I think during the feudal age in Europe, the feudal lords used to kill about 1% of the population per year. So they killed all the bad people, all the people with the undomesticated types. What I mean to say is the bad people. I mean the people with a strong will, the people with differing ideas, the people who don't want to obey. They were killed off, and that's why very few people like us still survive, because most of them were just killed off. The ones who were allowed to live were obviously the obedient ones. So that's what I think is going on. What happened in the whole Western world, and you see that among African people, Central Africans, they don't have that. They are still, a lot of them are, I would say, not as domesticated as we are, which causes a lot of trouble, because you might call them wild, right? But we are domesticated, or at least our people are very sheepish and domesticated, and that's also unhealthy. So we don't have a proper balance anymore, what traits do you share with your family? I don't know. Right. Yeah, I made some video about what's going on with Russia and so on. You know, the bridge collapsed in Baltimore in the USA, and the media now want you to believe that the Russians did that, but they didn't do that. You know, it's all about two parties like Russia and France, Russia and the USA. They hit each other and then they hit back. It's like tit for tat, hitting, and it keeps getting worse to the point where they're going to destroy each other. I mean, so far the United States, I think they destroyed Nord Stream. They destroyed, or with the help of Britain, they destroyed the Baltimore Bridge. They destroyed. They were messing with the Suez Canal, and then you think like, you see what this is all about? It's like everybody is just, well, not everybody. The Western powers are destroying infrastructure, global supply chain infrastructure, because you know what that means? It means it's over. Globalism is over. We have reached the peak of globalism. There's never going to be a world government. We've reached the peak of globalism. Now they're already destroying the infrastructure that made us get this far. And when you destroy the infrastructure, lots and lots of people somewhere will have to starve. And I don't think it's going to be, the white people's old generations, the baby boomers, they're going to die off now, right? But it's actually the Indian people and the African people who have too many young people who won't be able to be fed in the future. How would we take action as a race to ensure our survival without being persecuted? Well, accept that your society is going to collapse anyway, and so there's going to be opportunities to do other things. For example, if they want to give you like the digital idea or like digital currency, you can start trading with coins again, with gold coins, for example, or with other things, clams if you have to. So what I mean to say is the globalists, as their systems start collapsing, they may panic and try to do like overreach. But at the same time, everything they do can be countered by people's movement. It's really not that hard. The globalists are not as powerful as we like to think they are, Is it a good idea to move to Russia and start a family? Russia has even lower birth rates than Europe, so I don't know. I wonder. You see how weird that is? It's the countries, Russia and the West, with the lowest birth rates who are at war with each other, while Africans and Indians have the highest birth rates and they're not waging war. Not with each other. You don't see a big war between Central Africa and Saudi Arabia, or between Saudi Arabia and India or something. It just doesn't happen, right? So there's something strange about the Western world. We have all the technology, all the money, but we can't go any further in terms of population. And that is going to cause a collapse. I don't know if that was your question. Yeah, is it a good idea to move to Russia or start a family? If you are willing to live off the grid, then clearly Russia is a good location. They have Siberia, they have northwestern Russia, those territories like the Baltic, along the Baltic Sea as well. Those territories, yeah, you will find cheap land and cheap properties there if you really want to go hardcore them. That would be, in terms of location, I'm not promoting the Putin regime. I'm saying, I'm looking at the geography, and it's Northwest Eurasia, between the Baltic Sea and the Ural Mountains there. And then of course, beyond the Ural Mountains, you have Siberia. There should be plenty of opportunity to live and survive and thrive there if you're willing to start from scratch. You're going to be very primitive there, Right. Yeah, Russian population decline is it's going to shit really. Help the system collapse. Yeah, that's what I usually want. Yeah. I don't think that's a good idea. They shouldn't do that because what's the outcome? There was last year December was research that looked at IQ scores in England, and it shows you that mixed race children have a halfway IQ. So if the one parent has IQ 100, the other has 70, the kids get 85 on average. So It's it can only dumb you down. Maybe that's the point, huh? Would all those immigrants even be able to survive the cold in the case of a grid power? No. But even for us, it will be hard, it will be difficult, because in many places in the urbanized Europe, there's no trees. So you can't cut trees down for wood to stay warm. So what are you going to do? You know, it's going to be very hard to heat the homes of our people. That may cause mass starvation, yeah, in Europe. People will have to move south to North Africa. If you think about it, I always thought it was very strange to move people from Central Africa to Europe. Because in Central Africa, you don't need to heat your homes, right? In Europe, you need to heat your homes a lot of times, a lot of months of the year. And that's a bit, that's very costly. You're burning a lot of coal, oil, gas, and then what? Solar. Solar panels don't even work. They have like thousands and thousands of solar panels in Texas were destroyed by hail, because the hail hits the screens and destroys them. It's like mirrors, you know? That's just crazy. So that doesn't really work. If you always risk hail and tornadoes and so on, you can't really, you know. Gene hijackers, yeah. You got to use the sauna a lot during the winter to stay warm, yeah? Maybe. Blankets. Yeah, that's why their houses on Greenland are fairly small, because it's expensive to heat them, right? Big houses are not really suitable for cold climates now. Unless you have a big family there, then your body heat will help. I know in the past, the old Germanic peoples and the Celtic peoples, they would have houses, and on one end, they would have room for cattle. There would be like 2 cows or a horse, and the body heat from these cows would help heat the home, because you trap the body heat, right? So you have a well-insulated house. The Vikings used to have walls that were like 1 meter thick, like 3 feet thick, and they filled those with a sort of sand, and that really kept the heat inside. So yeah, they put a lot of effort into keeping themselves warm, of course. They were smart about that. So you use your cattle, but you don't sleep next to the cows, but you sleep in the same house and the cows are in the other end to keep you warm, right? No, never. Why would you do that, you know? It's just crazy. Because I experienced that as like a downgrade, culturally, socially, genetically, everything. Like, what are you doing, you know? It's just weird. Usually it's only lower class Western women who do that anyway, you know, and some crazy ones, no. Had enough of these questions. You need a lot of skills to survive in the cold. That's true, yeah. Right. So in the wintertime, you would eat lots of meat and dairy, because that's the only food you could eat. But only when the summer comes, then you can eat fruit and vegetables again, yeah. Do you think a leader like the painter is one of the hope for the revival of Western civilization? I wonder what works, because in the 1930s, you could use your voice for speaking, and it worked at rallies and so on. They didn't have TV as much yet. People didn't own a TV. People just listened to the radio, so the voice was very important. And nowadays, I wonder what it is, you know. Most people seem to just go for looks. You have to be pretty, so that counts me out, right? But I think in some way, you can have tremendous influence. I do reach a very large audience on TikTok. People listen to what I have to say. So speaking is a requisite. You have to be able to speak in order to get your message across, right? But I wonder what would really help kickstart or launch a movement in the Western world. And that, I think, is on the condition that we see a global supply chain breakdown, the material wealth disappears. You will not be able to buy a new car anymore. You will not get another phone anymore. There may be trouble with the internet. There may be trouble with electricity even. Things will get cold and dark in Europe very quickly. Then in that moment, people will need a new spiritual spark. And that's when I think if you prepare some kind of a religious movement, not a political movement, but a religious movement that is right there, ready when it's needed, to give the people that bonding, that racial bonding that they look for, that social cohesion that all of a sudden becomes important again, then I think you can have a tremendous success uniting the people toward a new goal. But it will be a very different goal. It won't be that you can all have a big mansion, a pool, and 2 cars and holidays in Tenerife. No, it's going to be about you having kids again. We're going to see, like, of course, when the birth rate drops, it doesn't keep dropping. It then also resurfaces again. And that resurgence of the population goes hand in hand with a new spiritual revival. So that's why I always talk about that. I can't even go into politics because if I would speak my mind as a politician in the Netherlands, I would be arrested and convicted and jailed. It's pointless. It's pointless to even try that. Although I will support political movements, the best thing we can hope for is a sort of that once the material world, the supply chains collapse, people will desire a new spiritual revival, and then we give them that. I think that's how it's done. Yeah. Highest divorce rates, yeah. Do you think creating some kind of secret society might be needed to achieve something where people could slowly work their way into positions of power? Yeah. Yes, of course. Look, they did it. The socialists, they have the Fabian Society, the Fabian Socialists. They have the Rosicrucians. They have Freemasonry. All of that is, And what do we have? Well, nothing. What we need is indeed to rebuild our own power structures, and that requires some kind of big boys network, old boys network. How would you do that? We need to have our own initiation, our own, and so on, right? You need to build the new leadership cadre, of course, but you also need to decide what's it going to be for. It's not going to be for globalism. It's going to be for something else then, to basically cut ourselves loose, cut Europe loose from the rest of the world, so that we can go on independently, though we may need Russian resources. So when I say Europe, that means Western Russia included, right? And then we embark on an entirely new path. Maybe we can rebuild our people and rebuild a sort of warrior aristocracy, yeah. A warrior aristocracy where boys are trained trained as warriors again, like in Sparta. Maybe not as extreme, but something like it, yeah. Like a Christian Sparta or a moral Sparta, a republic that cares about its own people again. Something like the Holy Roman Empire, but then a new version of it. Not this communistic EU experiment, no. What are the rules of entry? I don't know. We'll have to think about it. You have to figure out your goals. Look, I'm just one person and I can make everything up, and I wonder if people will go along with it. Usually there's always a lot of pushback from everybody, from all sides. New houses are very insulated compared to earlier. Well, that's smart at least. The thing is to win the women back. What do you say about that? Yeah, well, depends. Earlier when I started the live stream, I was speaking about Megan Fox and how she's using surgery to stay pretty, even though she's aging, right? And those women, we don't want them. So it's also about natural selection. We can see now that there's a lot of women who only care about the material world, the houses, the cars, and men also only care about the house and the car. And those ones are just not going to make it. You need people willing to accept hardship. Those ones, yeah. But there are lots of those, right? There are lots of those who want that. So it's about getting the women back, but not all women. There's a lot of women like Megan Fox or something. We would be better off without them. We don't want this anymore. We don't want this material bullshit anymore. It's coming to an end. Right. It's frustrating to see right-wing supporters fall for the controlled opposition because there's so much of it. Anybody in the mainstream media is controlled opposition. Alex Jones, Jordan Peterson, all of them are phony ponies, fake. The women need a software update, yeah. That's probably true. But that won't happen until it becomes clear to them that there is no more material future for them. You're not going to have cars and planes in the future. And once that is clear, when the supply chains collapse, when that moment comes where the normies realize that the world has changed and that their old ways are no longer useful, that's when I think you have an opportunity for changing the whole structure of society. And I think we are going to do that. There are right-wing women, yeah, I know. I know. There's lots of yeah, I like listening to those ones. Yeah. Hardware update, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. I noticed something about the right-wing women. Most of them are very Christian, very religious. They really believe in God, yeah. Uh, and I think, normally speaking, women are more interested in the spiritual life anyway. So what has happened? I think that's what happened. Materialism became the new religion. That's why women fell for it. If we could only explain that this religion is fake, the religion of material stuff is just fake. We got to get rid of it. And if we can do that, if we can just collapse the supply chains, supply lines, I've said it before, that's when I think you will see a real revolution, or rather I would say a reaction. People are going to react and say, okay, we don't want this shit no more, get lost. There are more people like us, men and women alike need to be outspoken so they can join together and have kids. Yeah, we need to be outspoken. If we have a long horizon, like 1500 years, everything will be possible. Right, but we also live in the now, and we also want to achieve something in this life, right? I never really know how high my phone should be. Should be at eye height or something, right? The camera should be on your eyes. All right, I'm done talking. I've been live for 53 minutes or so. Usually I try to fill an hour. I'll do this again. Maybe not tomorrow, but I'll do it again on the weekend or so. If I get my TikTok live access back, I will switch to TikTok again. But for now, I'll be here. It's hard to be outspoken when you rely on your job for necessities. Yeah. All right. Exactly. You wish for an alternative. Yeah. We're all slaves of the paycheck. Yeah, that's sad. Before I leave, my closing remarks. I look at Western civilization, and this is what I see. I see rich white people trying to replace the white middle class, their servant class, with a brown underclass because they're cheaper, and they think the rich white people think they're going to stay rich that way. Okay, rich white people and Jews, but it's not just Jews, it's Jews and the rich white people, right? They are replacing the white middle class with the brown underclass, thinking they will stay rich and will lower the cost and will stay rich. I don't think so. I think we're going to eat the rich. Eat the rich. All right. Thank you very much, and see you next time.